Hey Leo, so this is going to be your 2025 predictions. I'm excited to get into it. We got a lot to go through. There's a lot that is going on next year. We have major shifts definitely to go through. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. We start off with a Mars retrograde in your sign. But it will quickly re-enter Cancer on January 6th, where it will stay until about April 18th. However, this transit will be felt for the most of the first part of the year due to the fact that it will be going back over the shadow point in which it retrograded. So I do believe that we will be experiencing this transit all the way even until May or June. So this is happening in your first and then your 12th house. So this is really significant because it's aspecting Pluto in the seventh for you. So a lot of you guys are having some major tensions in relationships here at the beginning of the year, and this likely already started at the end of last year. Some of you guys may have had some power dynamics playing out in relationships. Maybe you had some fights with a significant other or a business partner. I definitely get out of it generally sort of power dynamic issue. You may feel like people are challenging you or trying to control you in some way. Um, this is something that you are going to experience at the beginning of the year, and then especially also around like April or May when Mars re-enters Leo and goes back into that opposition with Pluto. So I suspect those are when you'll have some of your biggest kind of like arguments or tension with another person. A big part of that is actually due to the Pluto transit into Aquarius, but I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. A lot of that Mercury or Mars retrograde is actually happening in Cancer, which is your 12th house. So this is really significant because the 12th house is the house of our subconscious mind or unconscious mind. The things that we do not even see ourselves, our blind spots. So a lot of you Leos are going to have a very active spiritual life for the first half of the year. Um, it may be difficult for you to sleep. You may find that you get a lot of very intense dreams, especially like scary dreams, honestly, or like dreams where you're being running or being chased or something is a really common one that I've heard as well, or having insomnia, like having a difficult time sleeping in general. It's also something that I've seen. Listen, when Mars is in the 12th, it's not a great place for Mars to be, because the 12th house is a very spiritual, sensitive house, and Mars really runs amok there. So, a lot of you guys might be more susceptible to spiritual attacks on the first half of the year. So, this is also something that you really want to be aware of. I think that some deep psychological things are going to be really dug up for you guys there in the first half of the year generally. And this really has more to do with inner wounds than anything else. I think this would be a really good time for you to kind of boil to the surface any negative energy that you've been holding on to, any bad karma that really it needs to be like cut out of your life. The 12th house is the house of like self-sabotage. It's the house of where we kind of get in our own way, or the things, the bad habits that we have, the things that we don't see about ourselves are very much revealed in this house. So having Mars go through here, I feel like that is going to be very much revealed to you. So you really want to watch out for things like self-medicating. A lot of times when people have Mars go through the 12th house, they do want to self-medicate in some way. I would definitely caution you on that because remember that when Mars is here, you're more susceptible to spiritual attack as well, which if you're drunk or something like that, that's going to be a problem. Because you are more likely to be influenced by negative entities if you're drinking. So, for example, right? So, just be really aware of that because that's something that I can see really happening for you guys as well. I think a lot of you guys actually have a repressed anger. I think that's actually a big part of where this is coming from. So, some of you guys may feel like you've just like gone through a big loss or a big shift in your lives. That might have to do with relationships actually, and I think you have a lot of repressed anger about it. And mm, I would tell you to be aware of that because this repressed anger can end up being misplaced anger where you are getting mad at people that actually don't have to do with it, um, or are taking it out on yourself in the form of either self-harm or um, doing very what I'm looking for, risky behavior, are things that I could see happening with Mars coming through this house. So, really take that time to sort of tap into what it is that you're really angry about. Because I do have a feeling with this one that while there were recent triggering events that are bringing up this repressed anger, I have a feeling that it goes deeper. This could be a situation that is triggering because it's reminiscent of something that happened early in your life or perhaps in a past life. So I think you're a really great candidate the first half of the year to deal with like a regressionist or to get readings or really dive into your spiritual development because that is one positive of Mars being in the 12th here, okay, is that Mars is like the surgeon. It cuts things out of things. Okay. Think of like the scalpel and all of that. So with it being in Cancer, there's a possibility that you could really like cut out so any kind of subconscious tendencies you have that have been holding you back. Maybe you have tendencies that are causing you to choose certain types of relationship cycles or toxic relationship dynamics. This is just one example of how I could see this play out. And you can maybe come to terms with why do you choose relationships like that. That's one example. Or maybe another example could be trying to understand more of why you make the business decisions that you do or the business partnerships that you have. I'm basing a lot of this because of that Pluto, right? In the seventh as well. So those are all things that I see coming up for you on that Mars retrograde. So I would say the best use of it, actually a really good use of Mars in the 12th house is solitary exercise. So consider going on long runs or swims or rock climbing, skiing, I don't know, whatever it is, right, that you're into. This house can be really yoga is a really good one as well, actually, because then it's doubled up. It's exercise and it's also a very spiritual solo experience. Mars does really well in that sense. And I say swimming especially because of the Cancer, but I can see a lot of different activities apply here. But the point is that these activities may give you kind of the right headspace to really come to terms with the things that Mars wants to express right now. So maybe it is going to be a good, maybe you'll take up, maybe you do have repressed anger and you take up kickboxing and you get your anger out. You know what I'm saying? It's so that's the feeling that I get about it. So I would definitely recommend those things to you also. We also have a Venus retrograde this year, unfortunately. So we have both Mars and Venus retrograding this year. The Mars retrograde, or sorry, we talked about the Mars retrograde. Venus is going to retrograde though, only between March and April 12th. However, it's the start of a pattern that Venus creates that looks like a star. So this is a significant Venus retrograde that will be felt throughout the year, even though it only happens through that time frame. It starts in Aries and switches to Pisces on March 27th, and that rules your ninth and your eighth house. So I think for especially the first part of it here in the first part of the year, like around like March, you're really interested, it seems like, in like revisiting maybe you want to travel to somewhere you had a good time at before, you're revisiting. Some of you guys seem to want to maybe go on like a trip of some kind here, like a pleasure trip or like a bit of a pilgrimage, you might say, for example, as well. Some of you guys are going to want to revisit some of your old studies as well. Okay, like your old maybe you did used to do yoga or some other type of spiritual practice, and now you see this video and you're like, I should revive that in my life. And that's what you go do. For example, I could see it playing out that way as well. But overall, I kind of see you guys just revisiting studies or experiences, places that expanded your consciousness in the past, that maybe you like gave you some sort of like aha moment or um expanded your worldview. You may be revisiting that here, especially around the beginning of the year. Another way that I could interpret this is you maybe, if you have a foreign lover, you could be visiting her or him during this time. Maybe you want to revisit with somebody that you had a love affair with. If not a love affair, perhaps this is somebody that this could definitely be good energy to try to make money out through like a foreign business or with a foreign business partner, especially if you've worked with them before or thought about working with them before. Maybe you started up a business plan, but it didn't really like pan out in the end. This could be a really good time for you to revisit here in the beginning of the year, as well. A lot of this retrograde though is going to be in your eighth house. And the eighth house is the house of shared resources. So I see you really restructuring yourself financially during this time. Especially starting around maybe like April, May. You may be revisiting shared resources in general. Okay. You could decide you want to, maybe some of you will restructure like a loan or a debt of some kind. Maybe you have a discussion with somebody about kind of like who owes what, like if this is if a spouse's income is involved here, for example, is another way that I could see this play out. I think that for a lot of you guys, unfortunately, intimacy will kind of cool off for you actually in the first half of the year. You seem to be in this headspace of kind of like, who can I trust? Who is right for me? I feel like a lot of you guys did go through something pretty recently then that is kind of has kind of showed you that maybe you didn't trust the right person about something. Maybe this happened when Pluto went into Aquarius. Pluto first visited Aquarius 2023 briefly. And then obviously went in there last year as well, fully. So think about the things maybe that have come up over since the last year and a half or so. Um, I would say that maybe you guys, some of you guys, it depends on your personal chart, right? Like for some of you guys, this could be that you broke up with somebody. For some of you guys, you found out maybe that someone had an affair on you. Maybe some of you guys found out you had just a shady business partner or somebody or a business partner will like pull out the rug on you or something like that. Those are the kind of general vibes that I feel about all of this. And so this has really put you into this headspace now of like, who can I really trust? You also had Saturn and Neptune going through your eighth house last year as well, now that I'm thinking about it. So yeah, you've really been in that headspace. And this is what is like really affecting the intimacy in your life actually quite a bit because you are afraid to trust again, honestly, I think. So this is going to be a good time for you this year, especially the first half of the year, to really evaluate that and overcome the blockages that are preventing you from finding true love. Because the eighth house can be associated with kind of like the deep end of love, like when we're, the dirty end of it, like when we're entangled and like, get into the nitty gritty skeletons in the closet like phase, right? Where it's not just a fairy tale anymore. That's kind of what the eighth house can be about. And so I think that this suggests that you may have some blockages about developing true love here again. And I think that's something that you're going to work on throughout this year. The Mercury retrogrades this year, we have 3 of them like we do every year. They are going to be in the first, fifth, and ninth house for you because they are primarily in fire signs. All of these houses have to do with really developing the self and embracing our true self-expression. So I see that for you big time. I think a lot of this year you are kind of evaluating your overall path in life, where you really want to go, what your destiny is, how you present yourself, what you look like. A lot of you guys might be reviving old business projects as well, or it would be good for you to do so. So if you have maybe like an old business project that you were working on that just kind of petered out, this might be a good year for you to revisit that and see if you can revamp the energy of that as well. I can also see you reviving maybe like old hobbies that you've done, or it would be good for you to do that actually so that you can really learn more about yourself as well in that process. So this really seems to be kind of like a journey of uh, self-reflection is really what I get out of that. Of course, we also have Saturn and Neptune moving into Aries this year as well. So Neptune's going to move into Aries on March 30th. Saturn enters Aries on May 24th. They both meet up together in what's called a conjunction here on June 15th. What's interesting is that they're dancing around each other. So they actually will retrograde back out of this sign and then meet up again in 2026. So what you're going to go through this year with this aspect, you're going to experience again in 2026 as a repeat, just so you know. Now, what I feel about these two entering the ninth house for you, look, on the one hand, I feel like you might like this a little bit just because Saturn and Neptune through the eighth is a real bummer. It is really hard to feel like you can rely on others with that transit. This and Saturn and Neptune through the eighth is what you went through 2024 doing. Um, and you will still experience that energy through the very first part of 2025 up until about, like I said, maybe like April. April seems to have a lot of big shifts for you, definitely. so from most of 20, so all of 2024 up until about April of this year, you have Saturn and Neptune in the eighth. And so, as I said earlier, that makes it really hard for you to feel like you can rely on others. You don't know who to trust. It's really difficult to develop intimacy. It feels like just a sense of longing about wanting to trust someone, wanting intimacy, but then also feeling like you don't know who you can develop that with, or feeling like that has been betrayed for you at some point. So it moving into the ninth, I think a lot of you Leos are going to be a little happy about that in a sense, actually. Um, but with it being in the ninth, I think that this is more about your belief system. Okay. So in this year, especially starting in April on, it's going to really start this process where you get a little bit more serious with yourself about your path and destiny in life and how you can stay on that path. I think a lot of you guys are going to feel this sense of longing, but unsure about where to go. Like you're like longing for a destination, but you don't know where it is, kind of thing. That's the feeling that I get. Um, I also feel like a lot of your beliefs are going to be tested by others. Um, as we talk about Jupiter next, I'll talk about how I think there are a lot of reasons to think that you are going to experience a lot of spiritual knowledge flooding in for you this year. But not everyone is going to take that seriously, actually. And you're going to feel like other people are challenging it, actually, are challenging your beliefs and testing them. You're starting a long journey with this transit, which is only starting between July and November, in which you are going to have a lot of your beliefs shift and change over time. And so, for a lot of you, this will be connected with travel or going or having some sort of like spiritual escapade. Okay. Like I said, especially between like July and November. Um, for some of you guys, this could be about taking a course, or changing your course of study if you're a student. Anything like along these lines. But what's for sure, again, it depends on your negative or your personal, um, natal chart. But either way, there's definitely a sense here of feeling like unsure about your direction in life, but really feeling like called towards something, like feeling this like calling to follow your path and just trying to like discern what that is. So I think you are approaching your destiny a lot more seriously this year in general, I guess is what I'm getting at. I also want to talk about Jupiter. Jupiter is going to be switching signs this year as well. Jupiter is in Gemini at the beginning of the year. It was in Gemini through most of 2024. Also, it will be entering Cancer in June. And so Jupiter is in your 11th house here at the beginning of the year. And that's awesome. That's the best house for Jupiter to be in, is the 11th house. You can get a lot of lucky opportunities through friends with this transit. You already went through some of this with Jupiter in the 11th, throughout 2024. So throughout 2024, you might have a good network of friends or like people that, have given you some good opportunities. You could have maybe aligned with a benefactor of some kind who wants to see you succeed and elevate in some way. Or if not last year, you will at the beginning of this year. I see this as a pretty lucky transit for you, especially when it trines Pluto there, which is really nice at the beginning of the year. So I think this could really bring something great for you. Some of you will connect with maybe like a spiritual teacher as well, or guru of some kind, or just somebody who can give you really good advice. The 11th house is the house of our hopes and wishes. So having Jupiter here is really awesome and is a great opportunity that you don't want to sleep on. Jupiter is a gas giant, literally planet, right? So it expands very quickly. So you want to grab it before it expands away because it's definitely not going to wait for you. So utilize Jupiter here in the first half of the year by doing a lot of networking. Even online groups apply. The internet's ruled by the 11th house. Okay. So be open-minded about how you do this. But it's definitely a good time for you to maybe join clubs or groups or, anything like that. Okay. Now it will go into the 12th starting in June, but I think this will be great for you because you had that Mars retrograde there in the 12th in the first half of the year, which suggests that you had more issues in the first half of the year of like negative spiritual attacks, right? Like issues with negative entities. So I think that the last half of the year with Jupiter coming in the 12th will help improve that situation for you a lot. Jupiter in the 12th is also a very underrepresented placement. Okay. When Jupiter is in the 12th, it's spiritually very lucky. So the last half of the year, you may connect with somebody on the other side. It could be a past loved one. For some of you, it'll be like a guardian angel or a spirit guide or something like that. Really great for spiritual development generally when Jupiter is in the 12th house as well. I think you'll get a lot of spiritual messages that really come through for you. All the clients I have that have Jupiter in the 12th house natally have talked about how feeling like a sense of divine intervention, or like they have a guardian angel in their life or something like that. That's very common, I hear. A very common here thing that I hear, like as if, like, for example, they have like a near death experience or some crazy thing happens where they really feel like it's gonna go a bad way, or it should have gone a bad way. And for whatever reason, there's just this lucky break where that doesn't happen. So you're spiritually protected at the end of the year. So the first half of the year, spiritual attacks. Second half of the year, spiritually protected. So these are things to keep in mind. Now, that said, Saturn does square off with this Jupiter throughout the year as well. So although you are having these like really beautiful spiritual experiences and this knowledge come through for you, there will be a lot of people in your environment that actually really challenge that. And in the, especially in the sense of like, it's the difference between the 12th house and the ninth house. Both have to do with spirituality, but the 12th house is the sense of spirituality in the sense of like true spirituality, just like hippy dippy, we are all one, as above so below, all that kind of vibe, right? Whereas the ninth house is more like religion. It's more about philosophy. It's something that's more it's considered more practical in a lot of ways, right? So the 12th house, while it is a very real spiritual experience that you will be going through, you will still have a lot of people though in your environment that are challenging that for you, and are challenging your general beliefs, and are saying, this isn't logical. You can't put an answer to this. You can't give a black and white answer to it. So therefore it can't be real. First of all, that's your clue that those people are not for you. Okay. That's number one. So if you have somebody around you that's doing that, that's not your person. I know that you guys are going to go through a lot of ups and downs with Pluto having just entered your seventh house around who is actually good for you and who is really for you and who is not for you. Okay. So this is one clue for you that they are not for you. If they don't understand the spiritual journey that you're going through, then they are probably not that person as well. But either way, I will say though that you can definitely trust the spiritual knowledge that you are having come through. Like, don't let outside voices take that away from you. Looking at Uranus as well. Uranus is going to shift signs also. Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018, and he will be briefly visiting Gemini from July to November. Okay. Now, this will give us a taste of what Uranus's transit will be like when he enters Gemini for good for about 7 years, starting in 2026. So for most of this year, though, you are going to experience Uranus in your 10th house, and you're no stranger to this. Uranus has been in your 10th house since 2018. So since 2018, you've probably gone through a lot of ups and downs in regards to your career. So a lot of you guys maybe have made major changes for your career. Maybe you moved for a job, or some of you maybe have retired. Maybe some of you went into self-employment or started new businesses. Some of you guys may have had like a company shut down on you. Obviously, this all depends on your personal chart, but what's for sure is that you've gone through some major changes or instability when it comes to your career since 2018. You are going to get a little bit of a break from this from July to November when it enters your 11th house, which again, it will enter for good in 2026. So Uranus through the 11th house is going to bring about a lot of eccentric and unusual friendships into your life. So a lot of you guys might meet some really interesting people or end up and just like for instance, I could see maybe getting invited to a retreat, like a spiritual excursion, and while you're there you make a contact that you end up connecting with later. Now keep in mind, with Uranus, friends can come in and out very quickly, and you'll also find with Uranus that your friend groups, like your networks, shift and change a lot. So some of you guys might actually move and be trying to um assimilate into a new group. Maybe that's this, I could interpret it that way, right? Like maybe some of you guys are making new friends because you're in a new area. For others of you, you may have lost friends because of a breakup. And now there are shifts with that. Obviously, you can use your imagination here, but what's for sure is that you will have some very unexpected events occur around your networks and groups that you're a part of. Okay. So make sure you do all of that networking that we talked about in the first part of the year when Jupiter is supporting you. The last half of the year, it's going to be a little bit more touch and go. Okay. Some of the people that you meet are going to be fantastic and really cool, and some aren't. Uranus is just about being unpredictable. It isn't inherently positive or negative, but it oftentimes does both. Honestly, like often it will bring some massive change that can be interpreted as negative depending on your attachments, right? And releasing attachments is a really big thing that I see for you in the year in general. I think we kind of touched on that with Mars going through the 12th house. I think you have some like grieving and healing to do of some kind in the first half of the year there. I do want to now finally talk about Pluto. So Pluto entered Aquarius last year for good. As I said, he briefly visited there in 2023 and then he entered for good last year. And now he will stay there for 17 years. So we started a long 17-year long, a long cycle in which you will go through a lot of transformations in regards to how you view partnership. Okay, so a lot of you guys have probably gone through a pretty major breakup during this time or learned something really difficult about a partner or a business partner. This doesn't have to be romantic partnerships, like only marriages, by the way. This is all kinds of one-to-one agreements. So this is also like business partnerships and things like that too, right? All play a role here. So for some of you, you've left relationships. For some of you, you're getting into a new toxic relationship. Actually, that is going to be a long cycle for you as well. I can definitely tell you a lot about Pluto in the 7th because I have this. I actually have this natally, so I can tell you what this is like. And what you'll probably experience during this transit. You are going to find that very intense people end up in your life a lot. And some of these people do not have good intentions for you. So they may come into your life and seem like they want to help you in all of these ways and want to be very involved in your life, but actually it's it's their way of trying to control you. Pluto is about power struggles and control. And so there are going to be a lot of people that are actually low-key a little intimidated by you and feel like they need to get one in over you up front by controlling you in some way. So you want to be very cautious and aware of any business partnerships or any marriages or business arrangements that you make during this whole transit. You definitely want to book a reading with me on that if that is something that is coming up for you, because we want to look at very specific times for you to ensure that this isn't hitting any important angles or planets in your natal chart. Okay. Because as soon as this Pluto hits an angle or a planet, you're going to feel it. All of you are feeling it now because it just entered the 7th house. But it's going to bring about just very intense experiences when it comes to relationships. You're also going to find that you're very magnetic to a lot of people. Some people might even get a little obsessive over you, or you might get obsessed with somebody else also, is also possible here. But I often see this related to very difficult and toxic relationships. So just be really aware of like the relationships that you're starting around this time. Some of you might actually meet a soulmate even during this time. This just really depends upon your individual natal chart, though, unfortunately, how this plays out exactly. But what's for sure is that you're going to be attracting very intense people into your life. You're going to be seen as very magnetic and attractive to others. There are definitely going to be people that are a little threatened by you and want to control you. And so that's why I say this can definitely devolve quickly into toxic relationship dynamics. It can definitely be hot for sure, this transit. So some of you will get into some really fun and spicy relationships as well here. But watch out also for illicit affairs, because I do think about how you had that Mars through the 12th. So some of you guys might actually, I think either some of you guys were cheated on, or you might be considering cheating on somebody, or being a part of some sort of illicit affair, or maybe you're find yourself attracted to somebody who's not really available or something like that. These are just all ways that I could see this really play out. So just be really aware of all of that. The best way that you can use this transit to your ability with Pluto would be to understand that you are really magnetic. So this is a good time for you to promote yourself, especially that first half of the year. Definitely the first half of the year. Promote yourself and really market yourself because people are going to be very drawn to you. So it could be really a good time for you to make good business contacts as well. The last thing I want to talk about is North Node. So North Node is shifting into Pisces as well on January 29th, which is where it will be all year. And Pisces rules your 8th house. So you got a lot going on under the surface this year, Leo. The 8th house is about shared resources, which means that the South Node is going through a second house. That's a bummer. It can be really hard to make new money on your own with South Node going through the second. A lot of you guys might be downsizing or getting rid of a lot of items or things that you have. As well. Some of you might even be taking a break from work somehow. Like I said, maybe some of you are retiring, or maybe some of you are shifting gears when it comes to a business or just taking time off work or something like that. I just see a lot of you taking a step back from that somehow during this year. South Node through the second can be a difficult time to make your own money, but North Node through the 8th is a good time to make money through other people. Okay. So this could be a good year for you to ask for help from others. So could maybe a good year after only after Saturn leaves here though. Saturn doesn't leave here until May 24th. So don't even try this until June. Okay, but starting in June, it's a good time for you to ask for help from others. Okay, so this could be after June. You can maybe apply for a loan, or you might get some kind of inheritance. You might see your spouse's income increase as well. I'm getting the sense that there's a karmic reason for this. Like maybe you have some good karma that's playing out here. Like you somehow earned this break. So you should take it. You should enjoy it because I feel like this is something that you need. And I feel like this is something that you've earned as well. And will also give you a lot of space to get to the bottom of any psychological blockages. I really feel like you're in a healing phase a little bit this year. And really ramping yourself up for the following year so that you can really make good money then. As well. With North Node going through the 8th, that could help in the intimacy department as well. I know your intimacy was getting kind of hit pretty bad there with a lot of those transits. So I feel like the latter half of the year is better for you on that front. Honestly, it seems like you might be getting closer with somebody there in the latter half of the year. Like I said, a lot of you might be meeting even like a soulmate or something like that this year. Let me see. I'm just clicking through some of the months and the transits and like what I see there. Yeah, it feels like a lot of you guys are falling into some sort of whirlwind romance, maybe around like April or May as well. But if you're already with somebody, then this might be just about your intimacy with that person increasing and benefiting from whatever life shifts you are making. Anyway, that's my take for 2025 for you. I hope this was helpful. Obviously reading for you personally is going to give you a better look at how this is really truly going to affect you. So feel free to book a reading with me. We also have classes and other fun stuff. Check out the website at calmspirit.com. That's just my last name, KALM spirit.com. If you like this video, definitely give it a like and a share and a follow. I do appreciate you guys and your support, and I definitely wish you the best year in 2025. Good luck.